So when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time playing a board game called Risk, where you're basically dividing up the globe and trying to win. It's like Axis and Allies or something along those lines. Your armies are trying to push the other armies off the global map. And it feels like global powers are doing this. Like they're just all gambling on Ukraine's fate. And it's very frustrating to watch. Okay, so here are 5 big stories for today. We're going to start here with this. Putin is claiming, as he's meeting in Russian territory in Kursk. I don't know where in Kursk. I would imagine not very far or not very close to the front lines. But he's joking that Sumy should become a part of Russian territory. And that's probably going to be a big push in time. Putin joked that the governor was made acting governor of Kursk because he wanted more and more. And you can see from the hand gestures what he was talking about. He wants more and more. It's not funny. I mean, it's really not funny. Next big story. Yesterday, I was showing you this about how Europe targets Putin's shadow fleet, and then Russia answers with a warplane. And so when you got into the article, so here's what happened. European forces decided to act swiftly following the newest EU sanctions package and detain an oil tanker from the Russian shadow fleet. In response to a planned boarding, Russian forces rapidly escalated tensions by deploying fighter jets to threaten the NATO ships from getting close. And when you read down to what happened, the Russian plane came by, the NATO forces withdrew, and kind of Putin won a bit of a victory there. I mean, you got to say that NATO backed off. Okay, so then today, France sent a surveillance ship to monitor Russian shadow fleet tankers in the Baltic. For the first time, the French Navy has deployed a 101-meter-long intelligence ship. The mission's goal is to intercept radio signals related to Russian activities, including monitoring shadow tankers involved in circumventing sanctions. So France is involved. And then today, you see this. Polish Prime Minister says a Russian ship carried out suspicious maneuvers near a key undersea power cable to Sweden. The incident triggered a swift response from the Polish military, forcing the vessel to retreat to a Russian port. Defense minister confirmed that the cable belonged to the Polish grid operator. A high-level security meeting with Prime Minister Donald Tusk is set for Thursday. It's very close to a hot war here because of what's going on in the Baltic. A 600-megawatt cable linking Karlshamn, Sweden, and Ustka, Poland is a vital part of regional energy security. And they're really, I mean, there's a lot of brinkmanship going on here. And again, it feels like the game Risk. Now, let's look at the third big story now with the EU's 17th sanctions package on Russia barely dry. Leaders are already working on a massive next round. Well, good. I mean, I keep complaining about this. I'm thrilled as I could be that we're talking about this. It was passed yesterday. They're already working on a next round. But analysts warn the bloc may be running out of options, especially as Washington grows reluctant to join in. Now, Washington's going to be reluctant to do things actively, but I think Trump's goal now is to actually put the onus of everything that's going to happen to support Ukraine on these men here and sidestep it himself. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. After Monday's Trump-Putin call, the EU approved its 17th sanctions package against Russia, targeting nearly 200 Shadow Fleet ships, but Russia's Shadow Fleet is estimated at 817 vessels. Well, that doesn't sound like much, but you got to get into the actual article itself, and then you see this. The latest sanctions targeted 200 Shadow Fleet vessels, but Russia is estimated to be operating 4 times more. Defense Intelligence, HUR, estimated that Moscow's Shadow Fleet operates 817 vessels. As of February 24th, 2025, the U.S., U.K., and EU have sanctioned only 311 oil tankers. So 311 plus, I suppose that's 311 plus the 200 brings it to 500 out of 800. So that's not terrible. So once you get into it and understand what's actually transpiring. So one of the last things that happened in the Biden administration was that Biden put these massive sanctions on, and it actually had a pretty significant effect. In fact, there were oil tankers off India and China and other places that just wouldn't drop their oil. Okay. India bought a record volume of Russian oil in May, Reuters reported. Crude oil imports reached 1.8 million barrels per day, the highest level in the past 10 months. So What'll happen with that? Well, Lindsey Graham and 72 senators back bone-crushing sanctions on Russia. Will it happen? Trump has to give the okay for it to happen, and I'm not sure about where Trump is. Now, Trump doesn't want to do anything himself, but he might be okay with, well, this is what Congress did, in which case that will deprive India and China and other places that want to do business with the United States of this oil, which will help fight Russia with money, right? I mean, that's what it'll amount to. Now, at the same time, Politico, the U.S. is opposed to including further support for Ukraine in a G7 statement that's being hashed out by finance ministers in Canada. Washington's also reluctant to describe Russia's full scale of invasion of Ukraine as illegal. What? It's hard to even understand that they would do that. Not only did U.S. oppose including further support in the G7 statement on Ukraine, but it won't be label a Russian invasion as an illegal Russian invasion. Again, here it is right here in Politico. It's unbelievable to me. Now, at the same time, Rubio is getting grilled in the U.S. Senate. He is a former U.S. senator, so he knows these people very, very, very well. Putin got no concessions, Rubio insists, as the Democrats grill him. Well, I'm going to show you 3 of the grillings. Here is Senator Chris Van Hollen, a Democrat from Connecticut.
And while you've turned away from a genocide in Sudan and invented one in South Africa, you teamed up with President Trump to throw the Ukrainian people under the bus and have been played like a fiddle by Vladimir Putin. Of course, Donald Trump not only said he would end the war in Ukraine on day one, he also said he would end the war in Gaza on day one.
And he's going to go off into other things. But the point here is that, Rubio had to kind of sacrifice his Rubio-ness to work in the Trump administration, because I think Rubio really feels certain things about communism and authoritarian leaders and things like that deep in his bones, but he's singing the party line, the Trumpian party line. Here's U.S. Congressman Bill Keating with the Secretary of State Rubio, if Putin is a war criminal. Okay, so here we are with Representative Keating.
Negotiating with Vladimir Putin. Is he a war criminal?
Well, I think you can look at instances that have happened there and certainly characterize them as war crimes, but our intent is to end the war.
Is he a war criminal?
We can't end the war without talking to Mr. Putin.
That's pretty simple. Is he a war criminal?
Well, that's
this man we're negotiating with, Vladimir Putin. Is he a war criminal? That's not tough.
But what? I'm trying to answer your question by telling you that we're trying to end the war here.
Go ahead.
No, it's not a simple answer.
You are equivocating, sir. Just answer the question.
I'm answering your question, and the answer is that war crimes have been committed, no doubt. And who's responsible for that? There will be time and place for that accountability. But right now, the job is to end the war.
So you won't answer the question.
If we don't end the war, people are going to get killed.
Reclaiming my time, sir. Let me go on. The person we negotiate.
Okay, so Rubio's in a weird spot where he's trying to not answer the question, so he's not having to be on record saying that when he's trying to negotiate. And okay, I get that, but he knows in his heart of hearts, he knows that Putin's a war criminal. He's said lots of bad things about Russia historically in the past. Here's another senator talking to Rubio in the same meeting or same interaction yesterday.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to get right into it. Secretary Rubio, I'm going to embrace my Jewish mother instincts for a moment. So as a mother, a senator, and a fellow human being, I can tell you that I'm not even mad anymore about your complicity in this administration's destruction of U.S. global leadership. I'm simply disappointed. And I wonder if you're proud of yourself in this moment when you go home to your family, because I've always found you, Senator Rubio, to be a bipartisan, pragmatic partner, a true believer that the U.S. is stronger when we lead with diplomacy and development. You have a strong record on this, but I don't recognize Secretary Rubio. A stalwart support of Israel, you've watched this administration abandon Saudi normalization with Israel in order to pursue business deals. You were once a fierce critic of Vladimir Putin, but you sat idly by as the president berated the elected leader of Ukraine for not capitulating to Russia. And worst of all, you've kneecapped foreign assistance, including programs that you previously championed and made America less safe, less strong, less prosperous in doing so. I know you know this in your heart, and I can't make this point any better than you did yourself in 2019 when you said, anybody who tells you that we can slash foreign aid and that will bring us to balance is lying to you. So with that, I'm just going to move on.
Okay, so I think she's right. I think Rubio, in his heart of hearts, is one way, but he is taking the Trumpian line as a Secretary of State and doing what Trump wants him to do. Okay. The United States will not participate in the G20 summit in South Africa due to tensions with the country's authorities, according to Rubio. So next item here, next direct Russia-Ukraine talks Ukraine-Russia talks, may include the U.S. and EU per European Commission spokesperson. Okay, the U.S. is kind of taking a back step, and the EU is going to be taking a step forward here, I think. And I think part of this is intentional. After the Trump-Putin call, the U.S. briefed European leaders, agreeing on the need for talks with Ukraine involving Europe and America. And I think it's going to be like where the Europeans were kind of stiff-armed for a while. I think Trump's new tactic is that he's going to pull the Europeans in and then step more and more back himself. Gary Kasparov wrote this, Trump may actually want to end the war to end, but he clearly is unwilling to do the only thing that would end it, which is to stand up to Putin, crush Russia's cash flow, and help Ukraine inflict enough damage to force Russia to leave. I think that's fair. Yesterday, I talked about how my opinion of Trump has changed. I thought he was going to be he likes to think of himself as the alpha male, and I thought his ego would keep him from being, the beta to Vladimir Putin. He just wants to be Putin's friend for some bizarre reason, and he's not going to do the thing, but I think will allow others to take the blame or do the things that he is not going to do. Like he would let the Congress take the blame for something, or he would let the Europeans take the blame for something. But I wasn't getting it away with Putin. Okay. Trump says now that Ukraine and Russia have to find a solution to the war themselves. That's new rhetoric. We hadn't heard that kind of thing until very recently. In a subsequent call with European leaders, Trump signaled that he was convinced that Russia was winning, repeating a number of the Kremlin's talking points. So after 2 hours on the phone with Putin, that's kind of how he was reoriented to think about this. Lavrov, meanwhile, is saying that Russia would not agree to a ceasefire. Remember, Trump has said ceasefire, 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 ceasefire for the past few months. And now Lavrov saying, nope, we're not doing that. That's why now when they tell us, let us have a truce and then we'll see. No, guys, we've already been in these situations and we don't want that anymore. Again, Russia is just playing for time. That's all that's going on here. And meanwhile, while Russia's playing for time, Peskov is saying stuff like this. Kremlin spokesperson Peskov says a list of ceasefire terms between Russia and Ukraine will be drafted separately by the parties. Work on the memorandum is moving dynamically, and no one is interested in delays, but they're constantly interested in delays. All they're doing is delaying. This is the point. Okay. Gary Kasparov, again, the delicate dance of acknowledging that Trump will never support new pressure against Russia while also not wanting America to completely turn against Ukraine and Europe. The U.S. is still helping Ukraine, if mostly out of inertia. That's where we are. That's the place. I don't see much forthcoming help from the United States. It's whether they're going to become impediments or not. That's more the question now. Representative Don Bacon, I showed you with Rubio, those were all three Democrats that were charging Rubio with this, that, and the other thing. Here's a Republican representative saying the moral ambiguity in this administration toward the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the war crimes it's committing inspires Putin. That's right. I mean, it does give him aid and a morale boost. We should be focused on thwarting this invasion and being on the side of freedom. Putin and Xi like what they see. I think that's right. And then we saw this, a bipartisan group of U.S. senators has introduced a resolution calling for the return of kidnapped Ukrainian children before any peace agreement with Russia is finalized. The resolution was led by a group of 6 senators, including Republicans Chuck Grassley and Roger Wicker and Joni Ernst. And these 3 have been fairly outspoken. And some Democrats, Amy Klobuchar, Dick Durbin, John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. It states that Russia's abduction and Russification of Ukrainian children demonstrate Russia's intent to erase Ukrainian nation and identity. Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. That's exactly right. So the resolution follows an April letter sent by 40 religious leaders to President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio calling for the return of nearly 20,000 children forcibly transferred to Russia. Look, Trump's looking at business deals, but this is where you have to start with the morality of the situation, not this idea of the business deals, but that's kind of what he seems to want. How is Russia taking this? This is the last thing that we'll look at. This is Steve Rosenberg of the BBC talking about here's what's in the Russian papers, and we'll end with this. Listen to this.
After the Trump-Putin telephone call, the Russian papers are crowing. Izvestia writes, "It looks like Russia has won the latest round of global poker." Kommersant, Donald Trump's stance couldn't be more advantageous to Moscow. In effect, he backed Russia's position of talks first, ceasefire later. He refused to strengthen sanctions against Russia and confirmed his determination to develop large-scale trade with Russia. A social scientist tells the paper, "Donald Trump, at least for now, is our ideological partner on certain issues."
Well, I don't know how ideological a partner is, but he sure does seem to love Putin and just can't seem to do anything to Putin. So watch this video next. This will be the video where I explain out why my position has changed on Donald Trump. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.